Sir, I have no one to put me in the pool when the water is stirred up, and while I'm going another steps down before me. Ito po, bigyan ko kayo ng context. Yung healing of Bethesda, para siyang malaking pool. And then, itong paniniwala nila, when the waters bubble up, naniniwala sila yung mga angel of the Lord, kapag nag-bubble up yung water, merong healing properties yun. So once na bumula yun, na-stir up yung tubig, kailangan mong tumalon doon and you will be healed. But here's the problem. Ang paniwala nila, kung sino ang unang tumalon doon, yun ang gagaling. So kapag nahuli ka, patay ka, hintay ka ulit na mag-bubble up yung water. So that is their belief in the pool of Bethesda. So kailangan mo makipag-unahan. Ang problema itong invalid na ito, siguro sobrang lala na ng sakit niya, hindi na siya makalakad masyado. Kawawa naman. In fact, lugi siya sa mga pipe at bingi. Kasi kung ikaw ay pilay, di ba? Kailangan mo may katulong ka. Yung mga pipe tsaka bingi, uy, nagbabol, tatalon lang ako. So lugi siya. So ang pag-asa niya kapag may kasama siya, ang problema ito, wala siyang kasama. Kasi yung mga kasama niya nandun sa gilid ng pool of Bethesda, I want you to imagine this, lahat ng mga may sakit at lahat ng kasama niya doon, nakikipag-unahan sa kanya. Survival of the fittest. Pero hindi ba ganito ang picture ng mundo natin? This is a picture of our sick world. There are wounded people, hirap na hirap sa buhay, struggling against each other. And sometimes, we step on each other just to get what they need. Hello? Hi? Kung tayo lumayo, sa trabaho lang. Agaw-agawan sa promotion. Feeling mo, yung kasama mo sa trabaho, kaagaw ko yan sa promotion. Kaagaw ko yan sa blessing. Yun ang problema, nagpapatayan, nag-aapakan para sa kakarampot na recognition, kakarampot na acceptance, kakarampot na comfort, happiness, and money. Pero gusto kong bumalik tayo dun sa sagot ng invalid. Gusto niyang gumaling, but he is relying on the ways of the world. He was relying on the pool. But unfortunately, here's what happened. It did not work until the day he met Jesus. And then here's what happened. Sabi dito, Jesus said to him, "Get up, take up your bed, and walk." And at once the man was healed, and he took up his bed and walked. Hindi ba tanggaling noon? For 38 years, he was beside the healing pool of Bethesda, nakikipag-unahan, nakikipagbalyahan, nakikipag-apakan, hoping that one day it will work for him. And then one day, he meets Jesus, and then Jesus comes, and then Jesus just said, sabi niya lang? Get up, pick up your mat, and walk. Tapos gumaling na siya. Wow! Magic. Ganun lang kasimple. In an instant, after 38 years, yun lang pala, si Jesus lang pala kailangan niya. For 38 years, he was relying on the healing pool when all he needed was Jesus. But what's interesting here, brothers and sisters, is that not only Jesus healed him effortlessly, tingnan natin, he also healed him on a Sabbath. Sabbath day siya hinil. Kaya nagalit yung mga Pharisees dahil doon niya pinagaling yung invalid. Sabi dito, John 5:9-10, sabi, "Now that day was the Sabbath, so the Jews said to the man who had been healed, 'It is the Sabbath, and it is not lawful for you to take up your bed.'" Anong pinagbawalan ng Pharisees? Nagalit sila, bakit? Kasi nung sinabi ni Jesus, "Go, take up your mat and walk," itong pilay, kinuha niya yung mat niya, lumabas. Pero in the Sabbath day, it's considered as working. Kapag meron kang dinala, meron kang binitbit, papalabas dun sa gate. And you see, Jesus, bakit tumalaga? Tingnan nyo to Jesus did ito na Sabbath. Ano ba ang Sabbath? Sabbath is a day of rest. Dapat nagpapahinga ka. Bawal magtrabaho. Bakit ito ginawa ni Jesus? Tingnan nyo to, napakaganda nito. To tell Him, to tell us, that you don't even have to struggle and work very, very hard for whatever you need in your life. If you have Jesus in your life. That to receive God's life, We don't have to struggle against others to get what we need. We simply receive God's radical generosity. Hindi ba't ang ganda nun? Eh yan ang problema, nakikipag-una, nakikipag-balian, nakikipag-sikuan ba tayo sa ibang tao? Ikaw baka matagal ka ng paralyzed. Maybe you've been trying so hard to get the results, but they are not coming. Baka naman kasi, tingnan niyo ako ha, baka naman pinipilit mo yung diskarte mo. O baka pinipilit mo yung style ng mundo. Eh hindi nga nag-work eh. Maybe, just maybe, why don't you try Jesus for once? And I mean really try Jesus. Because in Him, grace is not scarce. Grace is abundant. Hindi mo kailangan makipagtulakan. Hindi mo kailangan makipagbalian. Hindi mo kailangan makipag-unahan. Hindi mo kailangan makipag-apakan. You just need to receive and trust in the life giver. Don't just seek for life. Seek the life giver. Is God speaking to anybody in this place? Parang wala masyado. Kapag walang nagre-react masyado, tinatamaan niya, ibig sabihin. Let's continue. Ito na. Punta tayo sa kabilang storya, kasi related yung dalawang yan. Sa feeding of the multitudes, feeding of the 5,000. In John 6, John 5 yung kanina, ngayon nasa John 6 na tayo, sabi ko, that now the Passover, the feast of the Jews was at hand. Lifting up his eyes then and seeing that a large crowd was coming toward him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread so that these people may eat?" And alam yung storya, there's this boy, 5 loaves and 2 fish. Familiar sa storya? And then 5,000, not counting men and women, were fed. And you see, gusto ko lang sana i-point out, I want you to take note, kailan ito nangyari? Babasahin natin dito, it happened in the feast of the Passover. Sabi doon, it's the feast of the Jews, the feast of the Passover. Now, I want you to understand this, na sobrang significant ng Passover para sa mga Hudyo. Why? Because the Passover is the defining story of the Jewish faith. It reminds them of how Yahweh rescued them while they were in slavery in Egypt. And on that fateful night, when they fled, nung tumakas sila, God told them to prepare a meal. Ano yung kailangan nila i-prepare na pagkain? Kailangan nila ng unblemished lamb, tapos kailangan nila unleavened bread, and then yung pinagkatayan nun, yung kukunin nila yung dugo, ilalagay nila doon sa mga lamppost, sa mga doorposts nila, because they believe when the angel of the Lord comes, kukunin yung mga firstborn. Pero pag naglagay ka ng dugo doon, you are declaring that you are for God. You are for Yahweh. So He will spare you and save your family. Are you getting what I'm saying? Yung buong background doon. Now, itong mahalaga. Sa Feast of Passover, kailangan merong pagkain. Merong unblemished lamb, merong unleavened bread. Imagine this. Tingnan nyo ha. Nangyari yung feeding of the multitudes in the Feast of Passover. More than 5,000 people have nothing to eat in the most important feast in the Jewish culture. Para mas ma-imagine nyo ng konti, tayo mga Pilipino, anong pinakamahalaga sa ating holiday? Ano? Anong Independence Day? Ano? Christmas! Imagine nyo yun! Christmas na Christmas, wala kang pera panghanda sa Noche Buena. At hindi lang ikaw, lahat ng mga kapitbahay mo, tayong lahat dito, gutom na gutom. Yun yung context. And then Jesus comes, using the 5 loaves and 2 fish, He created a feeding miracle. Bakit? That little thing was put in God's hands. Let me give you an analogy. At ito po ay isang basketball. Pag meron akong basketball at hawak ko yan, siguro makakascore ako 2 points, 4 points, 10 points dun sa liga na nilalaroan ko. Pero liga na nilalaroan ko, ako yung star player dun eh. Pero mas magaling yung John Riosa. Magaling yung John Riosa dun. Grabe yun ang secret weapon namin. But when I hold the ball in my hand, it actually, ang worth ng Molten na yan is 2,500, 3,000 pesos. Pag ginamit ko, swerte na maka 10 points ako. Grabe, sobrang ganda na ng laro ko noon. But in the hands of LeBron James and Steph Curry, it's worth around 100 million pesos. $100 million a year. Because it depends on whose hands it is in. A barbell in my hands, on my back, makakasali ako, exercise ko, ngayong competition na sinalihan ko a few weeks ago. I can lift that. But in the hands of Heidi Lindias, it's worth an Olympic gold medal. Honor to one full country. At milyong pera, rewards, kondo, kotse, at kung ano-ano pa. Again, it depends on whose hands it is in. Itong tirador na ito, sa kamay ko, meron akong laruan. Panira, ng kung ano-ano. But in the hands of David, it can kill a giant named Goliath. It's the same thing, but it depends on whose hands it is in. 5 loaves and 2 fish in the hands of a boy is a lunch. May kasamang snack pa siguro. But in the hands of Jesus, it can feed a multitude of people. Why am I sharing this to you? Who wants a miracle in their life? Let me tell you this. You have something in you. Maybe some of you here, you are telling me, brother, ang konti ng resources ko, konti na lang yung energy ko, konti na lang yung pag-asa na natitira sa buhay ko, konti na lang yung passion, konti na lang yung pagmamahal na natitira sa puso ko. But I want you to know this. No matter how little or scarce, if you put it in the hands of God, there will always be more than enough. Amen? Again, it depends on whose hands it is in. Ang tanong ko sa inyo, yung buhay mo, saan kamay ba nakalagay? Kasi pag binigay mo yung buhay mo sa kamay ng Diyos, not only you will have enough, laging may sobra pa. Let's continue, sabi dito. In fact, sobra-sobra, they gathered them up and filled 12 baskets with fragments, may crumbs from the 5 barley loaves left by those who had eaten. May sobra pa. Now, I want you to know this. Anong significance ng 12 baskets? It was actually a reference to the 12 tribes of Jacob. Ano ba yung 12 tribes of Jacob? Pinangako ng Diyos sa bayan ng Israel yung promised land sa kanila. Ang problema, yung 12 tribes of Jacob, nag-agaw-agawan dun sa promised land. Nagkawatak-watak sila. When they got to the promised land, they were fighting for each other. Pinag-aagawan nila. Ito ang problema. Bakit nila pinag-aagawan? Para sa kanilang lahat yun. What is John telling us again? John is telling us again this, that there's a difference between scarcity mentality and abundance mentality. And John is telling us that there's no need to compete with each other for scarce resources. Because God's grace is abundant for everyone. Siguin mo yung katabi mo, sabihin mo sa kanya, huwag kang makipag-unahan. Huwag kang makipag-agawan. Dahil yung biyaya na para sa'yo, ay para sa'yo talaga yan. At biyaya na para sa